Darlington Station on the morning of March the 28th, 1993. A steam-hauled excursion train departs on its journey to Eastgate, the first time in over a quarter of a century. The route runs through the beautiful valley of Weardale in the North Pennines, part of England's last wilderness. With every seat taken, the Dale folk turn out in their thousands to welcome the train back to their valley. In Stanhope, even the town band is there. This railway was built by the famous Stockton and Darlington Company, and parts of it date back to 1825. One of its most famous landmarks, the location for John Dobbin's celebrated painting, is the Skerne Bridge near Darlington. The painting depicts a scene of excitement during the opening day, and the bridge itself is still used daily, although the setting is now rather less rural and the trains somewhat shorter. And this is the very engine that pulled that first train. Not a replica, but the genuine article, now part of the National Collection and here enjoying a well-earned retirement. Locomotion's home is at Darlington North Road Railway Station, which was converted into this fascinating museum to commemorate the 150th anniversary of the Stockton to Darlington Railway. However, the entire line could soon be but a memory, and its surviving relics all consigned to a museum, unless the ambitious campaign to save the Weardale Railway is allowed to succeed. So what is it about this particular line that is so deserving of your support? And just how important a piece of Britain's railway heritage is it? As every schoolboy and schoolgirl knows, the Stockton and Darlington was the first public railway to carry passengers behind a steam locomotive, the first in the whole world. And the line from Darlington to Shildon still runs along part of the route first engineered by George Stephenson. The company promoted the extension of the railway in stages all the way along the valley of the River Wear, until it finally reached its terminus at Weir Head in 1895. Valuable minerals were being extracted from mines and quarries all along the Dale, and a railway line with a connection to the growing network was the obvious way to transport them out. The Killop Wheel lead mining centre has gloriously recreated the golden age of that industry. And although lead was always the bread and butter of Weardale, large quantities of silver flowed out of its mineral veins down the valley, some to be minted into coins of the realm. And we even today have a modern counterpart, because on the back of every fiver, a picture of George Stephenson and our old friend the Skerne Bridge at Darlington. The lead mines had ceased to be profitable by the time the railway reached Weir Head. However, other mines and quarries remained in existence until the middle of this century and brought new revenue to the line. In addition, it served the many local communities through which it passed. Passenger figures during the early part of this century were substantial, with 6 trains per day running along the branch in either direction. The movement of livestock on market days was also a regular and noisy event. With the decline of the lead industry and the gradual rise in car ownership, the railway seemed doomed to a slow and painful death. Starting with the complete withdrawal of regular passenger services in 1953, the line was closed and lifted, bit by bit, from Weirhead down the valley until Eastgate was reached. Then in 1965 a minor miracle took place. The Associated Portland Cement Company decided to open the Blue Circle Cement Works here in Eastgate. And the magic of it was they were going to use the mineral line for transporting their wares. And so they kept the stretch of line open, all granted for freight, but they kept the heavy lorries off the road. Now that chimney pot to me has always been a finger linking the past through the future. The past of mining to the future of tourism here in the Dale. Over there is an enormous great hole in the ground, and that really could accommodate anything we want with imagination. Nature reserves, tourist centres, dry ski slopes, you name it, they could be put there, hidden from sight, so Weardale could enjoy its tourist cake and keep its rural heritage too. Another possibility is that the quarry could be used as a landfill site for domestic waste from the northeast major cities. If so, the local authorities will insist that such traffic can only be brought here by rail. For a short period in the 1960s, the railway was once again host to passenger trains, when numerous enthusiast specials traversed the line. Mostly steam-hauled, the last of these was the Three Dales Rail Tour, organised appropriately by the Stevenson Locomotive Society and run on May the 20th, 1967. In more recent times, Stanhope once again appeared as a destination on the timetables. A visionary scheme to attract people back onto the line saw the running of trains from Darlington on summer Sundays. Subsidised by the local authorities, the service started in 1988 and was repeated each summer until 1992. Aimed at locals and tourists alike, it attracted large numbers of people. Once again, the Dale was all hustle and bustle. The trains were back. Unfortunately, not for long. The death knell for the railway was finally sounded in November 1992, when Blue Circle, who had for so long provided its lifeline, decided to transfer to road haulage. The ending of the twice-weekly cement trains meant that British Rail had lost its final freight client and no longer had a reason to retain the branch line. Complete closure seemed inevitable. Once the word got round, enthusiasts from all over Britain came to have one last ride up the Dale. Rail tours came in all shapes and colours, including the unlikely spectacle of a high-speed train slowly snaking its way along the winding Weardale line. However, local feeling was strongly against allowing this important rural byway to die. In a bold move aimed both at raising public awareness and gauging support for the line's retention, the local authorities jointly sponsored the running of two special steam trains on March 28, 1993. Almost 1,000 seats were sold within 3 weeks, as passengers were captivated by the idea of a ride behind steam through one of the North's loveliest valleys. Despite a dull and rainy day, the route was lined with well-wishers who turned out to show their support for this growing cause. At the same time, the beginnings of a preservation society were taking shape. From a very humble start, it had grown to a membership of 250 in less than 2 months. With a nucleus based in Weardale, the society draws members from across the north of England and indeed from much farther afield. It enjoys strong support from the local authorities and it had individual members from all trades and professions. A practical start has been made with the ongoing restoration of Stanhope Station, the Society's base, which it rents from the owner's Weir Valley District Council. A realistic business plan has been drafted, and the task of raising the necessary finance to buy and run the line is underway. To show how credibly they take the scheme, British Rail laid on an inspection train after official closing of the line in order to fully acquaint Society members of any potential problem areas. Amongst those on board was the Honorary President, Sir William McAlpine, owner of the Flying Scotsman. On the 29th of June 1993, 40 years to the day since regular passenger services were suspended, the Society took delivery of its first locomotives. Donated by British Coal, they wound their way up the Dale on the back of two low loaders and were lifted off to await their future life, pulling engineering trains for the rebirth of the Weardale Railway. The aims of the Society can be outlined quite simply. Firstly, to operate a steam railway as a tourist attraction in its own right. The North Pennines has been officially designated as an area of outstanding natural beauty. The possibility of its protected status being raised to that of a national park is always there to hope for, giving visitors the opportunity to view such countryside from the comfort of a train and then encouraging them to disembark at a wayside station and explore further, whether on foot, by bicycle or local buses, is the most attractive and sustainable way of promoting tourism in the area. Next, to provide a public service transport facility for the people who live in the area. Year-round railcar services will be run at times beneficial to the local residents, giving them easy car-free access to the towns of Bishop Auckland and Darlington. Retaining the connection with the national network means that all parts of Britain will once again be within reach of the local population. Concessionary fares on the Weardale Railway will also be available for bona fide residents of the Dale. Later, to develop the freight carrying potential of the line, both as a means of earning revenue and in order to preserve the character of the Dale by reducing the number of lorries that thunder through its picturesque towns and villages. And what a perfect place for a string of linear nature reserves developed along the periphery of the railway line, adopted and developed by local schools. Why, here at Witton Park, this was the industrial centre of the whole railway system. Enormous ironwork gobbled up the minerals from the Dale, and here was the first place in the world that coal was loaded behind a steam locomotive. But the most important thing about recreating this railway line is the real jobs that that's going to create in one of the most industrially disadvantaged areas of Britain. Funding is being sought to provide this training, but a large pool of ready skilled labour is waiting and willing to work. This is not just another job creation scheme, but a challenge to use the traditional skills inherent in County Durham. One such undertaking is a joint venture between Balfour Beatty Rail Engineering and British Coal Enterprise, which would retrain redundant mine workers in skills associated with permanent way construction and maintenance. With the railway up and running, the largely volunteer labour force would be complemented by a corps of permanent staff in the operating department. But by far the greatest potential for job creation is away from the railway itself. Tourism is already our biggest growing industry, and the people that the railway attracts, both in Weardale and as its focus to the entire North Pennines region, will need to be catered for in many ways. The most obvious to benefit will be the establishments offering accommodation, food and drink. Also, connecting bus routes will be needed to take visitors to the other attractions, and rural craft industries will expand greatly as tourists search for high-quality souvenirs and presents from this high-quality environment. Is it all just a pipe dream? Railway fanaticism gone mad? Not at all. It's a bold and visionary scheme, yes, but it's one that can come to fruition if approached in a down-to-earth and business-like fashion. Why, already the partnerships in place, local authorities, businesses, the real enthusiasts, but most important of all, the people of the Dale, and things are really starting to move. There's still a lot of work to do before trains can run up and down the lines again, but the plans have now been drawn up and the finances are steadily being put in place. In an area that is thought of as the birthplace of the railways, it seemed particularly appropriate that one of its oldest lines should experience its own renaissance. The mineral wealth on which it was all founded may be long gone, but with your help, the Weardale Railway could see a new era of prosperity based on tourism, public amenity and job creation. And who knows? Scenes like this could become a regular feature in the not too far distant future. It's up to you.